Walking along a path at the roots of Pikes Peak, you take a fork in the road towards the annnnnd Society digital pub. Inside is a raucous conversation on the arts, faith, and, well, the age-old topic of love. In the corner by the fire are three people. One of them is sighing dramatically over her glass of wine as she dreamily recounts her favorite love stories. And yes, that's me, your co-host, Christina Brown. Welcome to Believe to See, a podcast of the annnnnd Society Arts Guild. Here at Believe to See, we explore the relationship between faith, art, and storytelling. Our goal is to connect the great story, the great stories, and our own stories so that we can better understand what it means to live with a Christian imagination. And of course, here at Believe to See, we are all about stories and living the storied life. We're here today with you on Valentine's Day to ask the question, what makes a good love story? And what makes a bad one? So, we want to kind of toss that around. Does a good love story need to have a happy ending? Does a lovelorn plot count as a good love story? And does sentimentalism have a place in a love story? A good one. In this episode, my co-hosts Mandy and Matt and I will be discussing some examples of love stories that we've encountered that were good or, perhaps not so good, just so that we can explore these questions. But in the spirit of Valentine's Day, I am going to start this discussion off with Emily Dickinson's definition of love in her one-stanza poem entitled simply, Love. Here we are. Love is anterior to life, posterior to death, initial of creation, the exponent of breath. Oh. All right, thank you, Emily. We can now end today's episode. Okay. Kidding. Matt and Mandy, welcome. Hello. And what do you make of that poem?
I can just picture, 13-year-old Christina Brown, laying in a field behind her house and, sighing over it. Exponent of breath. Saying the words like an incantation.
See, I'm immature. I got hung up on the word posterior.
Derriere.
Yes. The derriere of death is love. No. I don't know. What random path did I just take us down? I don't know.
So, me and Mandy were discussing in the green room, Christina, that we were both a little worried because both of us are a little cynical about love stories as they're presented in most films, literature. But the good thing is, I think you have enough sincerity for the both of us.
I do.
So this will all even out.
Yes.
You're like this Patronus of sincerity with love, and you'll drive away my Dementor self. So this will be great.
Wow, that was some excellent Harry Potter references right there.
I need to know what my Dementor is then.
Yeah.
Or my
your Patronus.
Thank you. Yes.
It's Emily Dickinson.
No, it's definitely not Emily Dickinson.
It's a unicorn.
Oh, why do we?
Cupid.
No, it's obviously a unicorn.
That's
why did we even wonder?
Fair.
Right.
That's fair. That's definitely what it is.
A sparkly one.
Okay, so I think what I'd love to do first is just talk about some key qualifiers for a good love story and some disqualifiers. So what are some things about that make a bad love story? Mm-hmm. So I have a list that I kind of made up as I was kind of going through some of this stuff. And I was like, okay, I just want to run it by you guys. See what you make of it. I'm just going to read through some key qualities for a good love story. You guys react as you see fit. All right, here we go. Key qualities for a good love story. Fidelity on some level, even if it's just fidelity of the heart, right? You have this person who's kind of me.
So you think they should be faithful?
I think they should be faithful, but
I just picture the guy I'll be faithful to you in my heart.
On some level.
Okay.
Mr. Wickham just talking to Lydia. I'll have fidelity of the heart for you, baby.
Yeah.
Baby. I didn't think.
Hey, girl. My heart's always been
that way. Okay, that is funny though. I actually did think of Mr. Wickham, and yes, well, I did think about it though, because I thought about she was the one that he always kind of wished that he had, been with. Like, he wished that he had pursued her in a way that he sort of kind of wanted to. Anyway, I think that's not necessarily where it shouldn't be where a good love story ends, but I think there are places where it can begin there.
With faithfulness?
With fidelity of the heart.
Oh.
Even if fidelity of the rest of the person.
Even if you're Meg Ryan in Act 1 and you're dating Greg Kinnear, but we all know her heart feels fidelity toward Tom Hanks.
Yes, something like that.
Okay,
In
that
every
makes sense.
movie that they're
That
both
makes
in.
sense.
Yes, I read a Elizabeth Gooch novel, Child of the Sea. Oh, it's so lovely and sad and lovely. But anyway, it's kind of has a little bit of that idea in it too. And Elizabeth Gooch does it very compellingly. But anyway, so that I think is one of the keys. Another key, but not a key for an absolute every time. But tragedy can actually make for a good key element in a love story. We don't want it in every one, but it can be a good one. Mm-hmm. I think a tension of some kind is extremely necessary. So, will the guy get the girl or vice versa? Will they ever forgive one another? Will they reconcile their differences? Will they see each other for their whole selves, etc.?
Will the bowels of Pemberley be thus polluted?
The shames.
Thank you. Oh, man.
Oh, Miss Quoting. Oh,
She just Jane Austen judoed me. Okay.
I can't believe I remembered that correctly.
Well,
wow. That was really something.
There you go. The story leaves the reader or the audience feeling like they want, or feeling like the love that the love that they just witnessed will last, right? You don't really want to end the story be like, well, that was cute, but I see them falling away tomorrow. You kind of really want the love story to feel like, they are now together at last. So that's one of them. I think a transformation of some kind, some kind of awakening. I really think that can be broadly applied, but I think there probably needs to be that. And then this is kind of an odd one, but I actually think that the reader and the audience wants to believe that a lost love will sort of remain an ever-fixed mark, like, Shakespeare says. Mm-hmm. And this love will not be stained by future misgivings or a soiled reputation of some kind. The lovelord will always remember the lost love with sort of this steadfast memory, even if he or she ends up loving again. So,
does that take away from the one they love again?
I think a good love story, it does not.
Okay.
I think if it's done well, it does not. And I thought about this a lot. But you have a lot of second marriages. You have a lot of widowed, and and there's that point where it's like you have someone that you gave everything to and you lost them. And, does that mean you never love again? No. Does that love again diminish what you had? No. So
maybe it's a little bit like children, because you love them differently, but not less or more.
That would be my take on it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But plus, when you give yourself entirely to someone, whether it's a child or a spouse or whatever, that part of yourself is always with them and vice versa, and you can't take it back. So if it was a good love story to begin with, then I think that ought to remain so.
Right.
In my romanticized version of it.
I went right to Titanic, right? Kate Winslet, she has her family. On her deathbed, she drops the bomb on her granddaughter. I had one glorious night with Leonardo DiCaprio. Never told anyone. Now I'm gonna die. Bye.
I just need to say, there was room on the door.
They did studies.
Rose!
Yeah.
There was room on the door.
That's really funny. I thought about that.
You were saying, Christina.
You are singing in most episodes now, and I have to say I actually enjoy it.
Oh,
it's like we're a musical podcast.
Thank you.
I almost sang The Love Boat when she was doing her intro, but
well, there's still time.
No. I'm now feeling
Yes. I just try not to sing when Christina's gonna sing.
It's terrible. Stop. Okay, anyway. Disqualifiers. Here we go.
Okay, so these are the qualities that you think will cheapen or sort of undermine a love story.
Correct.
Okay, ready.
All right. I think shallowness at all. Just.
What do you mean by shallowness? Do you just mean like
Nicholas Sparks?
Oh, we'll have lots to say about him. Don't worry.
Sorry.
So when I think of shallowness,
allergic reaction. Okay, so shallowness. Yeah, I would say honestly, Well, okay, there's a couple ways you could say this. I don't want to hate on Hallmark movies, but they don't always go super, like, there's like a surface level, right? There's a surface
Yeah, but
level.
I think that's by design, and I think that's worth, I know we're going to loop back around and talk about it.
I think we will. Yes, I do. But I think as far as, like, a love story that's worth aspiring to, or remembering, or sticking with you, I think that is important.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got really distracted.
So they keep the problems very surface level, sort of the paint by numbers stuff. She's the big city career woman. He's the
come back to save the family's tree farm.
Okay, is that what you're thinking of? With
shallowness? I'm so sorry.
So
is that what you mean by shallow?
Yeah, the typical beats that we expect from a Hallmark movie. Like, she's the big city lawyer who's given up on love. He's the old boyfriend from back in the small town, and they get together and blah, blah, blah. Well, she's like, oh, am I afraid to love again? And he's like, I actually own a bakery and I'm super sensitive. Am I on the right track here?
No, he owns a bookstore.
Oh.
Yes, you are on the right track.
Okay.
I would also just say, shallowness could also be defined as well, it's later in this list. But basically, it needs to be more than sexual chemistry, right?
Well, true.
It needs to be more than, like, you're really hot, let's get together. You know what I'm saying?
That is...
Well, and I think what you're talking about sounds more like trope/formula.
Right.
Because it really is plug and play.
Yes. Oh, I've never heard that term. I like that.
Yeah, so
it's probably an 80s term.
I like it. I don't know.
Okay, no, that absolutely does make sense. And related to the hotness thing, that is a tried and true method. If you want to figure out a plot twist in like an okay like detective like TV show, you're like, okay, the housemaid and the guy's best friend, like, they're both super hot, so obviously they're having a secret affair. Like, that's how you judge it, right?
It's true. It's so
true. Otherwise, they wouldn't have cast hot people for those parts.
I know, it's so sad, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That is true.
Yeah, it is true. All right, so after that comes lack of trial, right? You've got nothing that they really undergo that kind of tests their character or their love.
Right. No tragedy.
No tragedy, no tribulation, no trial. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
And the characters themselves, they have no depth. I say that is one of the biggest ones for me. If I don't care about the character, I sure as heck don't care about their love story.
Well, and I think that's where, like, the physical attractiveness, particularly when we're talking about on-screen love stories, like, if they're hot, that's supposed to just be enough.
Right.
There's this underrated sitcom called Great News, and at one point...
I've never heard of that.
I'll tell you about it after the show. It's great.
Okay.
But at one point, these two sort of secondary characters, this like newscaster lady and her football-playing boyfriend get together, and this guy in the background says, "Love is so romantical when both of the people are hot." That seems to be the sentiment of a lot of like poorly constructed love stories.
Oh,
that's actually hilarious. Actually, it's funny, when I was thinking of this disqualifier, I was thinking of actually a book that I read that I literally stopped reading. And I was like, I'm sorry, I just don't care.
Oh,
it's just too uninteresting. I really don't care whether you get each other or not. Anyway, yeah. So, and then, of course, the last disqualifier, in my opinion, is love that manifests throughout the entire story as infatuation or, again, sexual chemistry, or just like really, really intense sentimentalism and nothing more.
Was it Oscar Wilde? I think he defined a sentimentalist as somebody who wants to have the luxury of experiencing an emotion without having earned it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, quote wall.
Yeah, that wild.
It is.
That sounds.
But yeah, I mean,
I got that.
That does seem to be the underlying thing with a lot of very poorly constructed love stories. They want to cut to the chase, right? The two attractive people like kissing and like declaring their love without putting in all the extra work, like the trials, the character depth, all of that stuff. They just want to cut to the chase.
And they try to cover it not just by the attractiveness of the pair, but like with good or flowery writing or, like they try to manufacture the feeling in the viewer/reader by like the lovely language or whatever. But it's really still it's not there because the characters, like Christina said, aren't unique. They don't feel like real people.
Yeah. And it's interesting because there's a question too about like, there are stories in which we want to find ourselves, right? We want to find ourselves in these stories because they sort of they give us courage to live our own lives out, right? So that's kind of where we really want to identify with that hero or that heroine, right? But then there's those other stories that, we know we're not like the next hottest thing, but we love that sort of escapism and we want to sort of like indulge in that sort of shallow story, right? And we want to just like almost kind of imagine it's us, but not really because it's so far removed and I don't have to actually apply it to my life. So I'm just kind of going to sit here in this like escapism bubble and watch this like really shallow story play out. I think there can be some of that too. I had another point, but I can't remember what it was. So, but I think there's some definitely interesting approaches, but I do want to talk about like, what did you guys think about those qualifiers and disqualifiers? Do you agree, disagree with them? Are there any more that you guys would add or take away?
No, I totally agree with, I think you hit it. I can't think of anything to add. Can you?
No, well, I think what you said is accurate. I have some stuff that I'm sort of doing some digging.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And there's a website /book/podcast called Story Grid. If any of y'all are just getting started writing or you need to like do a diagnostic of your manuscript, it's good. It's former agent Sean Coyne. He kind of breaks down effective stories into their component parts. Don't take it all as gospel. Sometimes it gets a little mechanistic, but it's still very useful. And he's very good at analyzing effective tropes. So he has a whole section on effective love stories. And he talks about, he talks about sort of 6 specific scenes that most love stories will have. And I think this is pretty interesting. Okay, here we go. So like, if you're going to write a love story, you need a scene of at least these 6 things. 1, lovers meet.
Well, yeah, that's important.
Well, bear with me, Mandy. Bear with me. Okay. 2, first kiss or intimate connection. They acknowledge that they care for or are attracted to one another. 3, the confession of love. One lover becomes vulnerable by expressing the depth of their feelings to the other.
Oh.
4, lovers break up.
Oh, no.
Something forces the lovers apart, willingly or not. 5, this is the most important one. The proof of love. The lovers must sacrifice for one another without the promise that will do them any good. And then the lovers reunite at the end. So those are the scenes. But then he talked about like the tropes that I find these very interesting. So if you think about it,
like tropes that should be avoided, or just tropes?
Tropes that are generally found in effective stories.
Okay.
So
in it.
I think if you'll go back through a lot of the stories you're thinking of, you will probably be able to find them. Good ones will do it in creative and unexpected ways. Mm-hmm. So one trope is the triangle. So one of the lovers has either, like Meg Ryan always has poor Greg Kinnear, who she's getting ready to ditch. Or Rachel McAdams has that poor good guy lawyer that she ditches in The Notebook. Don't get me, I have a whole album side on that. Or like their career or whatever. There's always helpers and harmers, people who help the relationship, people who harm it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So like the best friend, the blah, blah, blah. Let's see.
The boss.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. There's always opposing forces beyond their control driving them apart. Maybe it's society, it's the Great War, it's cholera, I don't know.
Or it's distance in general.
Exactly.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Yes. Secrets. There's usually some secrets that need to get revealed.
Oh gosh, those drive me crazy. But sorry. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And in the final one they said was moral weight. Love stories are morally loaded, he says. So that's it. That's sort of what you were getting at, I think. Because I think you all are kind of, you're orbiting around the same idea, right? Where there has to be consequence to it. A lot of what he's going through are like the typical trials, the things that get in the way of the lovers, the things that are driving them apart, the things they have to go through. And then again, the most important scene in any love story is the proof of love scene, where one or both needs to sacrifice something to like show how much,
Do you know what I'm imagining? I'm imagining Billy Crystal running at the end.
Yes.
When Harry met Sally.
Exactly. That's the proof of love. He goes to the party like without the fancy clothes on.
He realizes he loves her and he doesn't know what she's going to say, but he has to run anyway.
That is one of like 5 love stories I like. Look.
Yeah.
Look. It's on my list.
Yep, I see.
I love that movie.
It is a good one. It's a good one. Okay, yeah, nope, that makes total sense. It's funny you mentioned the secrets. The secrets. Like That's a big one for me personally. I'm actually curious what you guys make of that later. But yeah, for me, it's like really bothersome when there's like secrets that ought to be said and are just not, and it's making things worse and worse and worse. It's like a plot device. You're like, come on, guys. It's the entire plot of this love story, like revolving around the fact that someone can't tell the freaking truth.
Yep. Right. Yep. You were given his ex-wife's heart. It's in your chest, and the gorilla likes you now. We all know how this works.
Yes. I wrote that down. But I couldn't remember the name of that one.
Oh, what is it? It's
I wrote down
Return to Me.
Return to Me.
Yeah.
Sometimes my mom would guilt me into watching those with her. See, I love you, Mom.
I have to say that one is what Return to Me, typically I would not like that love story at all. Mm-hmm. But I love it because of Minnie Driver and because of her grandpa and all his friends.
So let's analyze this through the story grid lens, right? We have the triangle. The dude is still attached to his dead wife.
Right. Is it David Duchovny?
Probably.
I think so.
Yeah, that sounds like something he'd do.
Yeah.
The helper characters are like the grandpas. The secret / the wedge driving them apart is the fact that she got
his dead wife's heart,
which is bad for some reason.
It's awkward.
It's weird, but I don't think you'd break up with someone for it. I've been complaining about this since I was 15. Anyway, keep going, Christina.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. Actually, it's a good segue because I actually started wanting to talking about specifics.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to ask Mandy. Can I ask you to give a good example, and then Matt, you can foil it with a bad example?
Oh yeah.
Not foil per example, but yeah.
Okay, is it okay if I give my obscure one?
Oh, please. I love obscure ones. Okay. Audience, obscure love stories.
Obscure. I mean,
Get ready.
It won the Pulitzer Prize. But, so an author that
Netflix doesn't carry its version.
Duet?
Netflix doesn't carry a version of it.
No.
Okay, I consider it obscure then.
Okay, so an author that I really enjoy is Ann Tyler. I think I've talked about her before with book titles because she has cool book titles. But she won the Pulitzer for her book Breathing Lessons. And it is about an empty nesting old couple, and the entire story happens with they are driving to her best friend's husband's funeral. And so the entire book is about marriage, and Breathing Lessons refers to that you would think that after being married for decades you know how to do it, but it's like you always have to learn. It's so the comparison in the book is made to it's as if you have to take lessons learning to breathe. You can't stop learning how to love each other. But the reason that I love it so much, and I have to say, yes, I am now an empty nester, half of an old couple. But when I read this book, I was in my early 20s, I think. I would have to check when it was published. But I was not the demographic of the characters, but I still absolutely loved them. And in the book, it goes back and forth between their perspectives, and it also goes back in time.
Oh, okay.
And so you get to see how they met, and they're just both so awkward. And it's actually hilarious. The book is so funny. Ann Tyler is super funny, but in a poignant way.
Yeah. And
the fact that she goes back and forth between it's Ira and, oh my gosh, Maggie is her name. So the way there are some parallel Maggie's always talking about herself in a derogatory way, particularly how she's gotten fat and squishy. But then, and so she talks about her that way. But then in the Ira chapters, he talks about her and he loves how soft she is. And and so you as the reader see how they see one another in a much more lovely, gracious light than the other one realizes. But then they talk past each other and don't understand each other. And and so you as
real life problems.
So you as the reader really understand how much they love each other even more than they do.
Oh, that's so funny.
So it is, it is. I never really thought about it as being my favorite love story until you asked us in preparing for this.
Sure.
And that one just popped into mind. And it is because they are so real. Definitely not where we're not talking hot people. They're, the way they're described, they're not, her pantyhose are always falling down. It's really funny. Anyway, so she waddles because her pantyhose are falling down and she can't pull them up.
So rough, man.
I know they are.
So rough.
But it is a beautiful book. It's funny. It's tender, and I just absolutely love the way they feel about each other. Is just based on who the other person is. They don't really think about it necessarily or go, oh, I love her sharp wit or, anything. They just love each other.
Yeah.
And it's so authentic to me. So
is the ending what you consider a happy ending?
it's a sweet, satisfying ending.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I will say Ann Tyler was married for a very long time. Her husband passed away a few years ago. So I think she knew of what she was writing about.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I love that example.
yep.
Okay.
Breathing lessons.
Reading lessons.
Yes.
Cool. Matt?
So you want a bad one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if possible, kind of contrast it and compare it to Mandy's good example.
Well, I was thinking about it, and there's like an embarrassment of riches because
A bad love
basically any love story that's essentially the B plot of a larger story. It's like, oh, here's a story, here's like a heist movie or this sort of movie. Oh, let's throw in a girl for the lead character to blah, like basically if that's the case, I hate it. Okay, just like already I hate it.
Okay.
And I feel like you can categorize so much of that into it, right? It's the Bond girl. It's there's so many. But the one that stands out as the worst of all time, and it's really not
I'm
close.
ready.
It's really not close.
It's not close.
It's obviously Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. The love story between poor Natalie Portman and Darth Vader.
Golly, it is so disgusting.
This is a true thing, Mandy. So I grew up watching it, and I'm going to be real with you all. I saw it when I was 15, so my main note on it was Natalie Portman is hot. I love it.
Oh yeah, she's
Okay.
gorgeous.
She is so gorgeous.
But
and
when-
her costume designer, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Right.
So
That's another episode.
this is what the couple has going for it, right? Like both people are super hot, okay, and they give declarations about how they love each other.
Sorry, I'm making it.
But none of it is organic. The thought of Natalie Portman ending up with that little creep makes me viscerally ill.
Yeah.
The softer than sand milady.
Oh, jeez.
So
Because you can't forget the episode 1, and he was like this little, almost like a sitcom character.
there's no coming back from that, right?
No coming back from that.
Yeah. So in that context, I grew up with it again. Once I was old enough to realize, just because the people are hot doesn't mean it's a good story. So then I show Danielle, my wife, and she obviously. But the note that I got from my sister-in-law after she saw it for the first time is, their love is disgusting. It's like, yeah, it really is. And when you think about it, they didn't do any of the work, right?
No.
They didn't put them through trials. They didn't show any sort of chemistry. Why they would have a connection with each other beyond just like, oh, you're hot. Well, so are you. Wait a sec.
I do have to say this kind
Guys, sorry, I just paused it. I was
okay.
sorry, yeah.
So
What were you
that's
saying,
not
Peter?
working.
It's not working.
It
It's
stopped
not
recording.
That's fine.
What about mine? Did you check?
Oh.
Whoops! Get up. Oh, not enough storage. You know what? Mine's probably going to do that too.
Yeah.
Do you think we got enough cuteness?
I think we
from
can.
Cutie Pie.
I think we'll have enough for the clip.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're good.
So I was about to
Or-
say.
or-
Okay.
Hold on. I'm going to start recording again.
Right.
Is that cool?
That's why I'm trying to remember what I was about to say.
Yeah. Tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. I'll give you that 5 seconds.
To be fair, George Lucas is kind of known for not doing a whole lot of work.
He
I mean, the dialogue.
Did he write the dialogue? Yeah. He did.
Oh,
Nobody helped him this time.
Ooh, that's unfortunate.
oh, it was so bad.
Yeah, that's why it's good to have co-writers, especially for a big movie.
Yeah. Or people that just tell you the truth no matter how rich you are.
Again, that illustrates a lot. If we're looking for the tropes of a good love story, none of it is there except for the hotness of the people in the bald declarations of love that have nothing undergirding them.
Oh,
like when Natalie Portman confesses her love for Anakin at the very end, I think all of us are like, why?
Why? Yeah. Yeah.
I know you think you're about to die, but at least die with dignity. I mean...
And I think it makes it worse that the acting is horrendous.
Well, do not throw Natalie Portman under the bus. She had nothing she could do.
No, here's the deal.
15-year-old me rejects this premise.
No, you have to listen to me.
I've heard it both ways. I'm all ears.
So, I don't know if Hayden Christensen is a good actor or not, because that's the only thing I've seen him in, and he was bad in those. Mm-hmm. But this is how directors matter, because even Natalie Portman, who is brilliant, was not. Mm-hmm. Because she had nothing, because the dialogue was horrible. Horrible. So, I mean, she was beautiful, and she was dressed beautifully, but nobody can act well when the lines are as cardboard, like wet.
Oh my gosh.
Wet, soggy cardboard. That's what the dialogue is like.
Even facial expressions, so bad.
But because what was she going to do with her face when she had to say stupid things?
Lucas is a big ideas guy. He's great at big, high-level concepts, but the other stuff like dialogue, just like directing actors, he's notoriously not great at. So
and we could do a whole episode.
He got too big for himself, right? He got big enough where no one would help him anymore.
And I've heard stories of like she could have done way better, but she was told to play it super like.
Oh, she was.
That's what I heard by somebody.
But anyway,
I'm with you on that. It's ridiculous.
We could do an entire episode on the horror that is Jar Jar.
Oh my goodness, starting to get me started.
We could do an episode on characters that should not exist.
We could, but we're getting off.
Write that down.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I have no love for Jar Jar Binks. There.
So this next example I have it's one of my least favorite love stories, but I don't know if it's just me, if this is about my own issues, or if this is something objective.
Okay.
I hate The Notebook.
Oh, I do too.
And part of it is all the girls of my generation, we're just obsessed with it, right? They couldn't get enough of Ryan Gosling in The Rain and, all that stuff. But, so, I'll admit, I've only seen bits and pieces of it because I don't have that strong of a stomach. But from what I gather, Rachel McAdams is with this perfectly nice, successful attorney. What? Wow, is she the luckiest girl in the world? James Marsden with his cheekbones? What? But then she goes off for the childhood bad boy. Yeah. Who seems like very emotionally unhinged and unstable. Mm-hmm. And grows a sadness beard and builds a house and looks super hot in the rain. And it's like, maybe it's a decent love story. Obviously, I'm not the target demographic. Is it a decent love story and I'm just getting too caught up on girls going for the bad boy or the nice guy lawyer?
Do we know who the target demographic was?
Just high school girls.
I don't think it was high school girls.
I don't. That's what I'm wondering.
I think the bullseye would be like 16 to 19-year-old women, but it has a long tail. Like, You disagree.
I totally disagree because the book was foisted upon me by a family member, a woman who will remain nameless, who was sure that I would love it because it was just such a tender love story.
Oh, fascinating.
And I read it, I think, on a plane ride, and it was the only thing I had to read. And so I read it, and I was like, "Yeah, no." But I think it's the same demographic as Hallmark movies. I don't think it's high school girls because typically you think about the age of the protagonist as who the target audience is.
In the frame story, they're older, but the main part of the story, they're like high school to young adult.
Right, and I would lean on the young adult part because but
the 20s, 30s is what you're saying.
So here's my main beef with The Notebook is that premise is freaking awesome. The old man having to tell his wife their love story every day is such a cool premise. And then he screwed it up.
Nicholas Sparks
because their love story is lame. It would have been so like, but the frame story of the old man. Oh, hey, the guy, James Garner plays Ira in the TV movie that they made of breathing lessons.
Oh.
Okay, so here's another question.
Anyway, but all
never mind what you said about them not being hot then. I mean, come on.
No. So all I was going to say is, I just think that that's such a beautiful idea that that she doesn't remember, but he enchants her with their very own story by retelling it. But the love story itself is just lame.
So it's an A+ frame story with a mediocre, like paint by numbers, like painting.
If by mediocre you mean awful, then
this was made into a movie and it was also a book. So
I
read the book and you've seen pieces of the movie. Right. I've seen the movie. I've not read the book. So what would we? And you said you have not seen the movie. Maybe?
No, because I hated the book.
Because you hated the book. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just wondering, do we think that there, like, I guess between the book and the movie, is there a saving grace with either or? But it sounds like none of us have both read the book and seen the movie. The
premise of the frame story,
like
it is an A+ premise,
right? Yeah.
But again, the main story is it's so generic. It's basically the rich girl falls in love with the bad boy from the other side of the tracks. They get separated by war, and her family isn't into it, so she ends up with this nice, boring guy. But then they get together, and it's super hot. That's so paint by numbers. Well, so
and shallow.
What the movie had going for it is they had the frame story, and they had Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams.
Great actors.
There you go.
Yeah.
And what I would say is, I don't buy that the people in the young people love story become the really cool old couple. I don't feel like they're the same people. I don't feel like you get that kind of depth of love from those beginnings. It was just like eye-rolly.
Yeah.
To me.
Sure.
Wow.
Don't
it was sort of like tell Nicholas Sparks about our podcast.
I mean, this was sort of like a useful heuristic for me, is like in high school, where I knew if a girl's a big fan of The Notebook, they would never ever be interested in me, because
that's the real reason
they're not gonna. They want other side of the tracks Ryan Gosling. The other one I had for this was Pirates of the Caribbean.
Wait, first, before you go to Pirates of the Caribbean, I need to know, if we're going for the disqualifiers from a good love story, which boxes does it check?
All of them. General suckiness.
They're too hot. They're too shallow. Oh, but they do have tragedy.
They have trial.
They let my high school crush astray.
I think your Frosted Tips led your high school crush.
My Frosted Tips were very popular. Angie Hansen complimented them.
Angie Hansen?
Yeah. Angie Hansen.
Wow.
Anywho, again, maybe that's more me. I'll share very briefly my Pirates of the Caribbean heuristic. Okay. I knew if a girl was into Orlando Bloom, I at least had a shot. But if they were a Johnny Depp girl, might as well get away as quickly as possible.
Oh, that's hysterical. Okay.
But would you like me to share one of my good ones there, or do you want me to keep with the bad ones? I can do either one.
No, I think we need another good one.
Okay. So the obvious good one, and it's so obvious that I don't even know why I'm bringing it up, but it's obviously Pride and Prejudice, which I believe is the greatest. It's the GOAT, right?
I do think you need to tell the audience, though.
Well, I mean, it checks so many of the boxes we were talking about.
Name them for us.
Okay, so we have the triangle. We have the societal expectations, right? Darcy is held back by his family obligation that he believes society is expecting. He feels it's almost indecent to propose this girl with no expectations with this family, whereas Elizabeth is held back by what she believes her loyalty to her sister, loyalty to her family. Both of their both of them have mistaken beliefs. They're both flawed people, but they're both fundamentally decent people who are trying to do the right thing and grow throughout the process, right? So throughout the different trials, they're separated for a bit. Darcy declares his love for Elizabeth against his better judgment. Elizabeth turns him down flatly, which is something that causes us to respect Elizabeth. She doesn't just go for the rich guy. She's like, no, you insulted my sister. You're not doing this.
She has standards.
She has standards, but then they both grow in, like, she grows in knowledge of Darcy and realizes that her first impressions were inaccurate. And then, despite all of the things getting against them, the patronage of the esteemed Lady Catherine de Bourgh, all of this stuff, they end up together. And usually, I'll be honest with you, 99% of love stories, I could care less if they end up together. This is one of the very few ones where I'm looking at it, I was like, go! You need to do it! Go for her, Darcy! Go to her!
While reading the book?
Walk all sexily across the meadow in the early morning.
Okay, so you're talking about the movie.
Well, both.
Okay, that's what I need to
Both
know.
are great.
And the best Darcy is that guy that was in Succession.
I'm in the minority. I prefer the Keira Knightley, Matthew McFadyen one.
No.
Not like that's the one you're talking about.
I like Colin
It
Firth.
is okay because I did.
Most people like the Colin
I love
Firth.
Colin Firth, but for this I like Matthew.
I prefer the 2004 one better, but obviously the core thing, the book is.
I didn't say I prefer the whole movie or series. I just
Right.
Matthew McFadyen is my Darcy.
Is
That's
your
who I
Darcy.
think
He's
of.
my Darcy too.
Oh, good.
In a different way, but he's
Yes.
still my.
We'll let him know.
Yeah.
Write him a fan letter.
That's
But other ones that I was thinking a lot about, we already mentioned this, but When Harry Met Sally, first of all, I think it's a fantastic movie.
Did you know that the old people in the in-betweens, those are
A
all
lot of
true
them are real,
stories?
yeah.
No, they're all true.
They're all true stories.
They're all true
Okay.
stories. Some of them are the real people and some of them are actors. But every single story, the elevator, 9 extra floors. That is true. All of those are true. Rob Reiner solicited love stories.
And again, that feels earned. It feels very authentic. Where
Yeah.
they start as kind of antagonists.
And Billy Crystal's not hot. God love him.
Well,
Not hot.
agreed. Well, me and Danielle watched it on New Year's Eve, and we had this exact same conversation where I took the pro-Billy Crystal side. So I don't know.
Oh, I love him, but I'm saying that as a good thing. He's not hot, but he's awesome.
Yes. Where you see where they start off kind of as antagonists. He kind of flirts with her, but kind of in a kind of he's bored way. She rightfully rejects him. They grow as friends. They have it's all good.
And they make each other better, which I think is key, not just in love stories, but in real life.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. It's not about how you make each other feel necessarily. It's, are you a better, I hate the term better version of yourself because we are one. Let's have some integrity, people. But if they bring out the best in you and if they make you want to be better, then that
Can I tell you
is
a great example of this?
Wait, hold on just a sec. Hold on. I need to pull us back.
Feeling the love
pull
now,
us back.
Christina.
I'm loving the love, but I need to pull us back a tiny bit. We do have some things that we haven't talked about yet. And I feel like a really good introduction to the second part is the very famous Shakespeare sonnet 116.
Oh, yes.
And so I have to read it for you guys.
Please recite.
Mostly for the audience.
Winston is listening.
All right, here we go. Sonnet 116, Shakespeare. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. There you go. That is Shakespeare's take on love. It is one of his most famous sonnets. And I think it's most famous probably because it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, I would say, it kind of comes closest to sort of the biblical version of unconditional love. I think of
That is true.
I think of Song of Solomon. When I read that sonnet, I think of the ever fixed mark. I think of, if this is not true, then strike me down. Kind of, vibe, right?
Right.
It does not move. It's fixed through trials. Again, it kind of goes through all of those key qualities for a good love story that we had talked about. Because it does mention trial and tribulation. It does mention, different kinds of transformations, good and bad. And it leaves you feeling like that is a lasting love. Like, that's the kind that everyone longs for. So yeah, I wanted to kind of pull Shakespeare in there. And he is known for all kinds of stories, and he's one of the most brilliant literary minds of all time. But I kind of wanted to go on the good side. And I know we had a couple things that we were thinking about with Romeo and Juliet, and how his intention for that story was kind of to be like anti-Sonnet 116. In the sense of like, here is the story, what not to do. This is what Sonnet 116 is not.
I find it so funny that Romeo and Juliet is viewed as a love story, because it's really not. I mean, Romeo is in love with Rosalind, and then he goes to the, ball or whatever, and then, oh no, it's Juliet, and then it's the folly. It's the folly and the ludicrousness of
it's kind
Shallow.
of a notebook, really.
It's the Notebook. If they hadn't died,
it's a bunch of.
If only they would have just friggin' died at the end of the. Okay.
It's two teenagers making very poor choices.
Such poor choices.
Killing each other in the process.
And that is sort of another element of possible love stories, right? Like that. Right. That's how some of the ones that I put that I like, they're not healthy relationships, but they are effective stories, because they're sort of a element of love that we all have some experience with, sort of taken too far. And that's exactly what Romeo and Juliet is. It's very clear that Shakespeare's portraying them as like two young, impetuous kids who are just driven off by their passion, right?
Well, and they're almost more attracted to one another because of the forbidden fruit. And can I just interject that wherefore doesn't mean where? She's not wondering where he is. It means why. Why are you Romeo? Why do you have to be Romeo? Deny your father, refuse me. Yeah, sorry. There was a debate on Threads the other day, and somebody's like, no, she's looking for him. It's about him hiding.
Wherefore?
She's not looking for him. Wherefore? I'm like, look it up in the dictionary, people.
Yes,
wherefore means why.
Listen to Mandy, literary teacher. She knows much about my hair.
So a movie that I think does a good job capturing these themes is this movie is called Rosalind. Came out a few years ago. I think it's on like Hulu, Netflix. It's streaming somewhere. But what it is it takes place from the perspective of this sort of other woman who Romeo ditches for Juliet. And it shows her just like trying to win Romeo back and break them up.
Is it funny?
It's really funny.
Intentionally.
It's really intentionally funny. And they kind of... They have fun with the plot. Like, you can tell they're deeply versed in it, but they have fun with it. And they portray Juliet as, she's very young. She's just moved to town. She's very pretty. Romeo, are y'all familiar with the term himbo or mimbo?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So Romeo is a mimbo.
Yes.
And
that tracks.
Absolutely hilarious. And because it sort of shows both of them being, it's just dumb, youthful infatuation.
Well, yeah, I mean, his speech at the beginning, before he meets Juliet, with his friend, oh gosh, my brain just died. But
it's not
talking to
Mercutio.
Yes, yeah. So when he's talking to Mercutio about Rosalind, he's talking about her as effusively as he ends up talking about Juliet. We're like, pay attention, people.
Nothing helps you get over the last one like the next one, as my dad used to tell me. But
oh my gosh, that's great. No, it's true though. I think that's a good point. I wanted to also talk about some. Well, I haven't mentioned my big
tell us.
Yes.
Yeah. I absolutely love one of the best, I think, love stories that was written and put to film, although some people kind of debate whether or not the film was, they have several versions of it, but there are some good qualities and bad qualities. Anyway, I say the Scarlet Pimpernel.
Okay.
I love the love story.
That's an interesting
Scarlet
one.
Pimpernel. Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Right?
I will say when I taught the book to my 8th graders, the boys got very annoyed that there was a love story. But I mean, I
Get back to the guillotines and stuff. Come on, it's just getting good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They're like, Mrs. Houck, you made us read a love story. I'm
You
like,
tricked us.
Calm down.
Yeah, no, they probably secretly loved it. But
I think so.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously it's one of my favorite stories, so I don't want to like give it away, but I might have to. So listeners, if you have not read it, maybe just close your ears
If
for
you
a
don't
sec.
know who the Scarlet Pimpernel is, you're about to find out.
Yeah. And it's really fun to be surprised. So for serious, if you don't want to know, do close your ears. However, okay, so I think this story is just this beautiful example of true love, like real love. It's a love where there's this massive tension where Marguerite Blakeney thinks that she has accidentally led her husband to his death. Mm-hmm. And just when she thought that she was winning back his heart, and he, of course, thinks she's someone else and this horrible person. And so she's kind of caught in the middle of needing to rescue him and realizing how much she really does love him and wanting him to think better of her because he has this misconstrued notion in his head, and she goes on this harebrained sort of adventure to rescue him, but is committed to it. It's like, if I die, it's better than living because I need him to know that I love him and this was not done with an aim to injury. So I actually wrote the quote when she finds out, spoiler alert, that her husband is the Scarlet Pimpernel. Mm-hmm. So she says, "Here lay the whole awful, horrible, amazing puzzle. In betraying a nameless stranger to his fate in order to save her brother, had Marguerite Blakeney sent her husband to his death? No, 1,000 times no! Surely fate could not deal a blow like that. Nature itself would rise in revolt. Her hand, when it held that tiny scrap of paper last night, would surely have been struck numb ere it committed a deed so appalling and terrible." So,
love it.
It's just great. And, as the story goes on, he finds out that she was, in fact, innocent. They both admit their faults. Okay, so they both had faults and flaws in their pride. And she realizes that he is way more a noble person than she had originally thought, even when she married him. She risks her life to save him. And, of course, all the while, he's been risking his life to save these, aristocrats from the guillotine. Mm-hmm. And he fell in love with her for her wit. And anyway, turns out, the very end, they sort of it's kind of like one of those very dramatic, they find each other as they're both lying in the dark, both injured and wounded from this terrible adventure.
We've all been there.
We've all been there.
Relatable.
And yeah, but it's just this charming, sweet, and yet very romantic.
And intense.
Intense. Okay, so that's the thing I was going to say. So the thing I love about this love story as well is that it's very sexually tense without any kind of language or even any kind of sexual scene of any kind. There's just this very real sense of this is a couple who is very deeply in love and has lost it and want it back, but don't know how to get it back. And they're both noble people. The audience, the readers know that, but they don't know that about each other.
Right.
And yet, so you're rooting for them. And there's this scene where she's dying to tell him that she's innocent, and he is kind of desperate to believe her, but their pride won't let them reconcile. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, anyway, but there's just this beautiful love story within this whole story of who the Scarlet Pimpernel is and the ways he's risking his life to save these people from death in the French Revolution. So, but yeah, and I would say, the very end again, the whole sexual tension thing, he carries her back to the ship when they're rescued. And I think the line, I can't remember exactly what it was something like, a lot of things were whispered that, had been dying to be said for a long time. And but basically just saying...
Yeah, that would have lost all of your male students right there, Mandy.
No, but it did. Because they didn't say anything. They didn't say anything. They didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So anyway, but there's just this deep, deep sexual tension that is not sexualized, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, no. They're drawn to one another and in all ways.
And they're married. They are a married couple and they want the goodness of marriage and can't.
Well, it's very interesting because they do, the book starts off, they're already married. He is coming across as this sort of pompous, sort of layabout, aristocrat, right? He seems very vain and frivolous and very insubstantial. And she is this woman who's, like you said, she's very clever, she's very witty.
Beautiful, very beautiful. Yeah.
It's cool to be married to a rich guy with a title, but she doesn't feel a lot for him. And she only finds out later that he's actually this...
So much more.
Yeah, this whole layabout thing is just an act. And he's also this super cool, I've heard some people call this as one of the first superhero stories.
Oh, yes, it is.
Where it's
it's known for that.
The pompish aristocrat is the alter ego.
He's a superhero.
And the Scarlet Pimpernel is his true self. So it's sort of
that's how I tried to sell it to the 8th grade boys.
Yeah, it's like you marry Batman, you marry Bruce Wayne when he's still in his party boy stage, and you don't know that he's actually Batman.
Right, and I will say, I was telling Christina earlier in the green room that I loved every week as the kids would read. I would say so. I would actually have them. I just remembered this. Vote on secret ballot. They would write it down and try to tell me who they thought the Scarlet Pimpernel was. And a bunch of people thought it was Marguerite for a long time.
Oh, nice.
But I don't think it was. I know exactly who this Tyler Freeze. He is the one. Congratulations, Tyler. He is the one who figured it out, but he figured it out I think the section of reading right before they were going to have it revealed. Figured it out. Nice. But because it is, the alter ego is very convincing, and who the heck would have thought?
Yep.
And I think also they didn't think a book that was old like this one would have the subterfuge to that level.
And I think that's
really
the thing
brilliant.
too. It's a beautiful story of love and what it means to actually really.
Now, did Baroness Orski, did she get to write it as herself? Do you know?
I don't know.
I just thought of that.
I was wondering.
I wonder
about
if she had
it says Baroness Orski
pseudonym.
in the 1908 edition, and it was published in 1905. So I would say probably she wrote it under her name.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess I thought it was older than that. I haven't taught it in a long time. Sorry.
No, you're good. But anyway, I love it because I think there's some real, true trials and tribulations that you find in any kind of love relationship, romantic relationship. And she very actually put it in a story that is full of subterfuge and heroism,
adventure, and intrigue, and it's a brilliant book.
And
it really is.
and yet the love story is still relatable to all of us. I think here,
and it's something we could aspire to. I think you talked about that. I'm not aspiring to Anakin. No.
Smooth.
I tell that to Danielle every evening. You're softer than sand, my lady. I hate sand, but you're way smoother than sand, so it's okay.
So bad.
Oh, George.
Oh my gosh. So, okay. But anyway, go thee and read the Scarlet Pimpernel, audience. You will not be sad that you did.
Breathing lessons.
And
something completely different.
Yes. Well, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about before, but I wanted to talk about the lovelorn stories. What is the benefit of having a tragic love story? And I'm assuming that you guys agree that there can be very good love stories that end tragically.
Oh, yeah.
Those are all my favorite ones.
Okay, there we go. All right.
Tristan and Isolde.
So we're right there. Okay. So because Valentine's Day, people, I have 2 more small little poem snippets here to read to get us into the mood. So I have another Emily Dixon one. Again, it's just one stanza from
You're going to read Annabelle Lee, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was going to read Annabelle Lee. Well,
Wait, are you? I was!
Oh, my God.
I had it pulled up in my notes.
No way!
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, this is brilliant.
That I did not really, yeah.
Okay, all right, that is fantastic. All right, I will read this one stanza from Emily Dickinson, and then I will let you, Matthew,
thank
do
you.
the honors of reading Annabelle Lee. And man, now we have to have another discussion in the green room as to why we all thought of Edgar Allan Poe's Annabelle Lee.
Well, I'll share my theories, but first you go.
All right, okay, Emily, here we go. Emily, to lose thee sweeter than to gain is what the poem is called, which is really just the first line. So, to lose thee sweeter than to gain all other hearts I knew. 'Tis true, the drought is destitute, but then I had the dew. I love it. Okay, I want to read that one more time. To lose thee sweeter than to gain all other hearts I knew. 'Tis true, the drought is destitute, but then I had the dew. There you go.
Loved and lost and all that.
Loved and lost,
Yeah.
and to having loved and lost is better than to have never loved at all.
Yeah.
Right?
I've
There you go.
heard that.
Mm-hmm. It's like things people said in something.
So, Annabelle Lee.
Annabelle Lee.
I love this for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
One, I kind of, during my English major, I had a whole semester like Poe is like my research subject.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know
So
that.
I love him. And one of the consensi among the scholars, like Annabelle Lee sort of encapsulates all of his ideas in like one condensed form. So if you want to know what Poe thought about, literature and poetic effect, it's in this poem. It's great because it works on a couple levels. It could be somebody who's talking about this supernatural love story. It could be dude who's just crazy. And, I love how... I'll just read it. I just love I love the meter. I love it all.
It's great.
Okay, here we go.
All right, audience, listen up.
It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived who you may know by the name of Annabelle Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than a love, I and my Annabelle Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabelle Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabelle Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who are older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. For the moon never beams without giving me dreams of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. And so, all the nighttide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so again, like Poe, he had his theories. We all know what they are, right? About how the most poetic expression is the death of a young, beautiful woman or something. So he has all this, but it does go this poignancy that you get for a love that is lost, as opposed to a love that you currently have, and it feels. There's definitely a poignancy there that would be lacking for if you just have a happy story.
Right.
It's the ache.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think we all
It's the
relate.
purity too. There's like a purity in that we all want preserved, but it's just not
Right.
there. And it reminds us that the things we deeply long for are not things that last in this life.
Yeah.
But you were the same idea.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think we all have had that, and not everyone has had the happy ending.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like more poignant.
Yeah, and then I love a lot of books that are about unrequited love, right? That's something that pretty much every human has experienced at some point. We've all liked someone who didn't like us back, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone has. Well, Mandy's like, well, maybe you have. So a lot of my quote unquote love stories that I really like are that too, because
Yes.
one of the reasons is it's very relatable.
Right. Or the fear that they won't let
Yeah.
them back. I actually, as we were recording, I remembered how much I love While You Were Sleeping. That's like one of my favorite romantic movies. I love that one.
How does that figure into any of these thoughts we were talking with Annabelle Lee?
Well, I don't know if it relates to Annabelle Lee, but, well, kind of, because, she loves, so I think with While You Were
She
Sleeping,
loved with a love that was more than a love.
I mean, she saved his life, so that was pretty, anyway, so I think it shows you what we think love is, because she thinks she's in love with this handsome stranger.
Again, it's the infatuation.
Right, and she thinks that's love, and then she totally innocently ends up, and for the sake of the family, is pretending to be who they need her to be because they're so excited that he has someone to love. And so I think that's important too, is she's not deceiving them out of any malice. She really is just sort of fell into this thing. But then she naturally becomes friends and interested in the brother.
Is it David Duchovny again?
No. It's Bill.
I feel like it's I've cast him as David Duchovny in my head.
It's not David Duchovny. It's Bill. I'm trying to.
Andy's looking at Peter.
I'm looking at Peter. Sorry. Anyway, the one in the coma is Peter Gallagher, but the one he's played a president. It's Bill somebody. But anyway.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. In Independence Day, Bill Pullman.
Pullman. There you go.
I love that.
So it's Bill Pullman and Sandra.
That's my president.
But the way that they end up drawn to each other is so organic and realistic and adorable, and so I just really enjoyed that movie. I think it's very tender, and I think it's a Christmas movie.
So that is one where it's sort of the infatuated, unrequited thing sort of ends up flipping on its head into a good.
Yeah, exactly.
One where I think it's love is generous, but you see this in a book like The Great Gatsby, right?
Yes.
Where Gatsby is in love with Daisy,
quote unquote.
Yeah, exactly. But when you really hear him out, it's like, is this really love?
Think you love. Yeah. Do you know what? That might be the reason I really don't like that book.
I love that book.
A lot of people love that book. It's not.
I love it.
It's not my jam.
Well, I do know that our time is running out, and there's so many stories about love that we just go on and
much
on
to love.
on. I do have a nominee though, or that I don't have time to talk about. The story of Baron and Luthien for sort of a lovelorn.
I don't know that one.
Oh,
It's Tolkien, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm more of a Lewis girl.
No apologies. I actually don't know the full story either. I don't know in full details, but
Okay.
it's supposedly, it's just an extremely noble and beautiful and tragic love story, and it's the kind of couple that everybody wishes they could be.
Is it
sort of the nobility
overly idealized, or?
See, I would say no.
Okay.
And I think that's why it's such a beautiful example of a love story that ends tragically, but you don't feel... you feel super sad about the tragic ending, but it's satisfying in its own way because it was so noble and pure and for such beautiful causes. That kind of idea. But
Okay.
anyway, that was kind of one of my nominees I kind of wanted to mention.
I'll have to read it and I'll brace myself for tragedy.
There you go. There's something about having lovelorn and lost love stories. If they're done well, there is something that leaves you aching inside, but satisfied. Like, this is what humanity ought to be. Like, in the sense of, like, this is the love. This is the ache that is the...
It's a longing.
It's a longing. It's the ache that shows the fulfillment that ought to be. It's better than a lot of those sort of like shallow sort of like, well, that was sweet and tidy, and I hope a guy looks at me that way someday. As opposed to like, this woman was loved like no other woman, and this man was more noble than any other man. And like, it just shows you that potential and the longing that we really were made for as humans. And so, in my opinion, even though tragic love stories really bother me and make me really sad, I think there's a lot of beauty to a tragic love story if it's done well.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, I think we touched on like the Hallmark trope stuff, and I think it's the reason that a lot of people like them is not a bad reason. It touches on our longing for restoration and hope and all the beautiful things. It's just a little bit too tidy. But I think there's a place for stuff. There's a place for junk food.
Yeah, if you want to have it on in the background, it's like, hey, this will just be fun. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, sometimes it's
just don't make me watch them with you, Mom. I love you so much, but I'll watch other movies with you. I'll even watch Return to Me, but not the Hallmark ones.
Sometimes it's very comforting to know what's going to happen. And sometimes that's what you want from a story. You don't want to have to worry.
Yes.
You know, and I will say Sweet Home Alabama is I don't know if Hallmark modeled all of their movies after it. I would have to check. I love Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh man, I love the music. The premise I can't respect. I can't do it.
I think I saw it before I'd ever seen any Hallmark movies, so I was down. And I love Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, she's great.
And Josh Lucas,
character, not so noble.
No.
Excuse me.
True.
Well, my friends, there are so many things to talk about, but we do need to wind things down here. And so Digital Pub was having a good time, but it is getting late and our fire is down to embers, and I think the barkeeper's going to just kick us out. So we'll trundle home with all the customers. And we'll make sure that you've polished off your final glass, listener, because we don't want you to have to bear the innkeeper's, malice and such.
As you walk home alone,
along a path,
dreaming of your lost love.
That's right. Because once again, Believe to See is a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. And we want you to find out more about the Anselm Society, so visit us at anselmsociety.org. And while you're at it, please rate and review the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you again for joining us. Happy Valentine's Day, and we'll see you next time.